Take a seat and welcome to Sit Down. Before we get into the podcast, if you could please help us out, like, subscribe, share. It really helps us get the message out to everybody. So I know everybody asked for it, but it really takes you 5 seconds. So really, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You could have already done it. Please help us out if you can. Like, subscribe, share. So then you come back to Grand Forks and I go to Grand Forks with you. And
yeah,
let's get into the Belmont Road phase. And
yeah. So from the time you were full time with me by the time you were like 8 or 9 months old. And so you were, I always say, I mean, my family at the farm raised you, and then you were with me, and then we lived in this like sorority house basically. And
I was raised by a house full of women.
Yes, you were. And that was my parents. The flood had happened. My parents had moved their business into my childhood home. Then they had gotten office space. They'd sold their business. All these things happened. And so my parents were like, well, they had this house for sale. And they're like, well, if you're going to go to UND, if you can find some people to help pay the bills, then. So my childhood best friend and her roommate moved in, and another friend from high school, another great thrower from high school. We all moved in. And yeah, you were raised in a sorority house of women, and we lived in my childhood home built in the 1940s.
When you say it like that, it's like, how did I turn out?
You turned out fantastic because everybody taught you how to behave. And
yeah.
So I started working for the athletic department. So I worked, and so I would take night classes. And then I was on the track team. And later, after my older friends had graduated, I had track team members that I had someone on the swim team that lived, rest in peace, UND swim team. But yeah, we had all these female athletes would live at my childhood home with me and you went to preschool daycare during the day. And if I had a night class, then
I got to hang out with the girls.
Yes.
Yeah. Nice.
But it all turned out. And then I worked a lot of jobs. And so I would work like every other weekend at the grocery store, Hugo's No. 2 bakery. I would waitress. I always tried to waitress on hockey weekends because I would make a lot of cash waitressing. Then I also worked for the athletic department. So when I actually graduated from UND and I just had a salaried job, and you were 4 or 5, and we just got to like ride bike and go to the library because I was poor, so we did free.
A lot of library visits.
Free things.
Yeah.
You didn't even know though.
No.
That I was only doing free things with you.
Speaking of free things, I got to go to a Tim McGraw concert because you were working for UND. It was the first concert in the Ralph Engelstad Arena, right?
Yes.
I don't know if I got in free, but you did. And I was sitting up with my grandpa Fred and my aunt Kirsty, and you came and got me, and we walked down, and I'm going to let you tell that story.
Yeah, well, Kirsty, my sister, had taught you Tim McGraw. She had played her Tim McGraw CDs, 8 years younger than me. She had played her Tim McGraw CDs for you and had taught you words, but I didn't know that. And you were really dolled up. I would say you must have been 3, going to be 4, maybe. I would think about that age. And yeah, it was the first concert ever. I was working still in marketing at the University of North Dakota, and Tim McGraw came along with Faith and their kids. We, ran to the grocery store and got the youngest some baby food, and they went to University Park. Tim McGraw was not sober in those years. I remember going and buying him a specific kind of whiskey, a Happy Harry's. And that was... yeah, I just wanted to see you because you were there with my family and I'd been working. So anyone that works event management knows how much work it is, and you're not enjoying the event always. So I just had this moment in the concert where I walked over and got you, and I just stood off to the side. You were wearing cute cowboy boots and a belt, my childhood belt actually, and a little plaid shirt, and I was just holding you. And security motioned. I didn't know security. And they motioned at me to come over. And so I did. And then they grabbed you and put you on stage with Tim McGraw. That was not planned.
And then I took over.
So that actually, I wish in some ways there's old school things that I sound old fashioned when I talk about, but there was no social media. And people had film cameras.
Yeah.
And you got on stage and Tim McGraw was singing, I Like It, I Love It. And I had this moment of like, this is my place of employment and my son is on stage. And what is he about to say into the microphone?
With like the biggest star of country music at the time. He was
only time
huge.
Yes, he was a huge star, but you also had said some embarrassing things in church into a microphone, like during the children's sermon on Mother's Day. So I knew that you potentially, were not afraid of the microphone and might say something totally off the cuff. And I just didn't know what was going to come out of your mouth. But you were tapping. You are musical. People might not know that. You are musical. And you were tapping your little boot up there as Tim McGraw is singing. And then he put the microphone right on you on the chorus. And you said,
I like it. I love it. I want some more of it. Couldn't say my L's.
No.
But I nailed it.
You nailed it right on beat and
everything. And the crowd went crazy.
And people snapped pictures with their film cameras. And then for weeks later, we got snail mail pictures. Like people went to Walmart and developed their film, which in some ways I just wish we could all go back to that time where people just went to a concert to enjoy the experience of it. And there was no phones. We left and people sent me in the mail and it got sent to the Ralph and to UND and people knew my family. People recognized like that's Katie's son on stage.
In today's world, we would have gone viral. I think me and Tim would have gone viral. But what we have is a good memory and a couple pictures. One memory I have is leaving that place. I was on my Uncle Robbie's shoulders. He was in high school at the time. And this was my first introduction to stardom. And all the pretty girls that came up to Robbie and were like, you were so cute up there. Good job. Oh my goodness. There he is. And Robbie's just like soaking it in, you know, the typical high school boy. Like, yeah, it's my nephew, you know.
We had a lot
it was so funny.
Like that. And I think it's, I guess a lesson I would take from that is just go and experience the moment. And it doesn't all have to be captured in a reel or a viral moment. It can just be a memory that you share with the people you're with.
Mm-hmm. So it's just me and you. We lived, a few years in Grand Forks, and then we moved to Fargo, and I was playing hockey in Grand Forks. And
because that's what you do.
That's what you do. As a young kid in Grand Forks, you play hockey. And so we moved to Fargo, and I thought I was just going to keep playing hockey because, like you said, you put me in a lot of different opportunities. I remember I was in gymnastics a little bit. Lacrosse. But when we moved to Fargo, you told me there is no hockey in Fargo.
Yeah, I think it should be noted that we are very close to the Canadian border. So where if you aren't familiar, hockey is a religion kind of in Canada. And so hockey is a really big deal in this area, and it might not be a big deal in other areas. But anyone geographically can relate to whatever your big sport is, you want your kid to do it. And so in Grand Forks, North Dakota, you put your kid on skates when they were 2, and every local park has an outdoor sheet of ice with a warming house. And there was even summer skating. And I just grew up in Grand Forks, and I was raising in Grand Forks now, so I thought that was what you do. I had you in summer skating, and I already was tired of being a hockey mom. And you also, let's be honest, weren't very passionate about it.
I was good, though.
Well, you were big. Good.
When I say good, I laid across
You took
the
a
goal.
nap when you were the goalie.
Yeah, I laid across. I was so tall that I could just lay across the goal and people couldn't elevate the puck, so I just stopped everything just by laying down.
At this time, I was working for an advertising agency in Fargo, North Dakota, and yes, so we moved. We lived in an apartment.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to save to buy a house, and which again, like I was 24 years old. Who was I? I was going to save money and buy a house, but nobody told me I couldn't, so I did. And I only knew a couple of families in Fargo, North Dakota, and their Fargo Public School had like a big kindergarten center. And you were going to go to kindergarten. You were turning 6. You were 5, turning 6, late summer birthday. So you were starting when you were 6. And I just had a hard time sending you to this huge kindergarten center. Like every public school kid went to this kindergarten center. And I had driven by it. And again, you got your information just from others and reading in the newspaper. You didn't get it from a social media post of another mom. So again, where do moms get recommendations from fellow moms? And so the few moms that I knew had said that at Bethel Church in South Fargo, there was K through 3 Park Christian School. Park Christian School was Moorhead, Minnesota based, but they had K through 3 at a church in South Fargo. And so I decided to enroll you at Park Christian. I think I had just paid off my beautiful Honda Accord and I wasn't going to have a car payment anymore. And I kind of equated like the kindergarten payment to like a car payment. And I could afford sending you to a private Christian school. And honestly, as a single mom, I just knew that I came from a Christian upbringing and I knew that a Christian school would be a great place for you. And that's where we landed. We lived in a 2-bedroom apartment in South Fargo, and you went to Park Christian.
Went to Park Christian and told me there wasn't hockey in Fargo. Long story short, came home and said, well, one of my friend's brothers plays hockey in Fargo. You go, oh, shoot. They must have just got hockey. I think you should play basketball. So
I think I had already enrolled you in YBL.
YBL, yeah.
At the YMCA, and you had met Zach Kovalovak in school. And I need to tell this story. And you went to Park Christian School in a church for kindergarten, and you would go to before school care. And we lost a good friend. We lost a couple good friends this summer, but we lost a good friend this past summer, Tom Strinden. And I think I can tell this story without crying, but Tom used to bring your friend Jacob to before school care. And Tom passed away now. And I really thought of this when we were at his funeral together. And Michelle was home, now Lieutenant Governor of North Dakota, Michelle Strinden, was home with the other boys. They hadn't had Sarah yet. And Tom would drop off Jacob at before school care. So you only saw Tom. You didn't see Michelle. And I would pull up in my Honda. And at the time I worked with Tom's sister at the advertising agency I worked for in downtown Fargo. And you had determined that Tom would be a good dad. And so you wanted a dad that lived with us. You recognized living in this little bubble of Park Christian School that everybody else was like a married couple. And you had a mom that didn't have a dad at home. And that was probably, you hadn't really spent a lot of time. We always had really positive male influences in your life. My dad, my brothers, my uncles. But you realized at Park Christian School pretty early on that you didn't have a dad. So you came home and you said, Mom, I think I found a dad for us. And I was like, really? Do you remember this?
Yeah.
And what did you say?
So I think we should consider Jacob's dad.
And I said, that's a kind and great idea, but Jacob's dad is married to
Jacob's mom. Yeah.
Michelle.
Darn.
And so that was when I told you, what did you have to do? Do you remember?
I don't remember.
You had to pray for a dad.
Yeah. That's right.
And so every night you would
a dad that lived with us. That was a big deal.
So you used to ask Santa every year for 2 things.
A brother and orange pop.
Again, that would be orange soda to anywhere else that doesn't call it pop.
It's orange pop.
So every year Santa brought you
orange pop. I got a lot of orange pop.
Because you never got a brother.
I know.
And so I made a deal with you, though. If I hadn't got married or had kids by the time I was 30, we could adopt a brother. Do you remember this?
And I said, he better be from Africa and he better be really athletic because I want somebody that's going to help me win basketball games.
Because you didn't know anything about adoption other than, which is probably not politically correct, but you didn't know, you only knew like adoption came from foreign places.
Yeah, I thought every adopted baby came from Africa.
And so you didn't know about it. And again, so the Strindens became our good friends. The Kovalvogs became our good friends. You were around other people at Park, but yeah, you wanted a dad that lived with us. And so I always think that then you kind of prayed in dad. Speaking
of dads that would live with us, you went to a concert. And I'm just going to preface this story with my mom is a beautiful woman, and she was a beautiful woman. back in the day. So I'm going to tell a little bit of this story from my side, and then you fill in the holes here.
I wish you would have given me the heads up of what stories you were going to drop.
That's not,
in the
yeah.
pod.
You wanted it as raw as possible. So, my mom went to a Blake Shelton, and who is he opening for?
Rascal Flatts.
Rascal Flatts. So it was a Rascal Flatts and Blake Shelton. This was early Blake Shelton, like first album Blake Shelton.
I was single.
Country boy Blake Shelton.
Long hair.
Long hair. And you and who else went to the concert with you?
My friend Laura.
Okay. Oh.
It was Laura Wilson.
Laura Wilson.
Yeah.
Was she single at the time too?
I don't know, probably.
She hadn't met with
She worked
Joe
at
yet?
Fargo Dome, though. That's why we were there.
Okay.
So she moved in with us, remember? So I had bought the house, which, again, back in the day, you and I, we lived cheap. We paid rent. My mom gave us hamburger from the farm because we have beef cattle, and she would give us hamburger. And you and I used to go to the grocery store with our $40 cash. And I sometimes made you put things back, but we kind of lived cheap, and I saved money to buy a house.
So then you're splurging. You get to go to this Blake Shelton concert.
Right. And Laura had moved in with us, so it was cheaper. So I'd bought a South Fargo twin
That's right.
home.
Yep.
You and I love real estate.
Yep.
Piece of real estate I should have never sold.
Mm-hmm.
But my first house, I'd bought it, and it was a little bit more expensive than renting. And then my friend Laura, who I'd grown up with my whole life, a few years younger than me, had worked at UND marketing with me, had gotten a job in event management and marketing at the Fargo Dome. And we decided that, yeah, you went to the farm for the weekend. Laura got tickets to go to the Rascal Flatts concert. And Laura lived with us because that helped me defray the expense of having my own house. It was a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. So Laura paid rent, and that actually made it less expensive than renting. And so, yeah, we were living together. Again, you still lived in a sorority house of women.
Yeah. Some things don't change. You guys go to the concert, and somehow you guys get backstage. You talk to the security guards who Laura knew, right?
No, Laura didn't know. She said, Katie, I had figured out how to go backstage at concerts. And she said, Katie, I asked, and there's no way. Like, they're not doing any backstage. And I was like, oh, come on. We can figure this out. Like, we're in marketing. We can figure this out. And because she wasn't working the concert, we just had tickets because I was an employee. And so I said, we just have to look for the guys that don't look like they work for the Fargo Dome. And I had gotten second row seats one time at a Garth Brooks concert by someone just not looking like a Fargo Dome employee and working for Garth and giving me tickets. So I knew a little bit how to do this. Again, pre-social media. So I just, Laura and I came out of the bathroom, and I saw a guy that had a leather CMT jacket on, which back in the day, that was the place where the country music videos were always debuted, and it was a big deal. And like, nobody that works at the Fargo Dome has a leather CMT jacket. And so I just went up to him and asked him what was happening after the concert, and he gave me a sticker, a backstage sticker pass.
So you get your sticker pass.
Yeah.
And get to go backstage. Blake Shelton wraps up his opener, and you get to go backstage like right after the opener, or was it after the entire
that
concert?
was full concert, and I was a little bit older at that point, and I was not interested in the Rascal Flatts vibe. Not that it just was a lot of younger girls, and it was all just a lot of food and alcohol and music.
Life is a highway.
Yeah, it was just a room in the Fargo Dome, and it was like a meet and greet, which I know every concert has those meet and greets. And
it was different,
like
back
fan clubs.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
So you go backstage, and you guys just hang out with Blake Shelton, or what happened?
Well, it just was like the Blake Shelton's band, I think, saw Laura and I like, we're not really here for this Rascal Flatts meet and greet. I just wanted to see what the experience was.
Yeah.
And so they asked us if we wanted to play cards with them. And then Blake came off the bus. Blake was still married to his high school sweetheart. And Blake came off the bus. Her name was Kat. And he came off the bus, and then we all, hung out. And really the moral of the story is then we did have cell phones in that day.
Yeah.
And Blake said that he would give Laura and I tickets at the next concert in Mankato, Minnesota.
Yeah.
And the next day we got a call from a 615 number, which, if you don't know, is the area code of Nashville. Anyway, we got a call that there was tickets for us.
It was Blake Shelton calling you.
At will call in Mankato, Minnesota for us.
Hey, Katie.
And we were just like, not groupies.
Katie, you want to come on down to Mankato to the concert?
Who is not nearby.
I got 2 tickets for you and your boy.
No, we didn't go, but I always joked about that, and it was funny. But yeah, I loved going to concerts.
I always joke about it because Blake Shelton got you and me tickets to the Mankato concert, and you said no, and then you had Blake Shelton's number in your phone.
I don't know.
Until the day you got married.
No, that's not true.
I think that's the rumor. Is that she had Blake Shelton's number in her phone,
rumor.
And then on the day she got married, she deleted Blake Shelton's number. I said, you could sell that number to a lot of people.
No, that would be not classy.
But that leads us kind of into meeting Dad.
Yeah.
Meeting Nathan. And your story on how you met Nathan is one of one. Tell me how that happened.
Are we going to do like podcast 2.0? Because I feel like
there
are a lot of stories.
No, there's part 1, part 2.
Yeah. So I'll do the top line. So you prayed for a dad that lived with us. You prayed for a few things. First of all, you were raised in a Christian school environment. You and I went to church. You went to Sunday school. I think was probably unique as a single mom. Like I've never cared too much about what other people are thinking. I probably spent too much in my 20s and 30s caring. I really don't care what people think now, but I just did what I felt was best for you. And so we went to church, and I was a single mom. I wasn't in any singles group or anything like that. And I wasn't meeting anybody that I was interested to spend the rest of my life with. And I had a pretty high standard. My mom maybe thought I wasn't going to meet anybody, I think. And I wanted to meet someone like my dad. And my dad is a phenomenal, strong Christian married man with high morals. And I just was struggling, as many women do and guys in their mid-20s, kind of searching. And all my friends were raising kids that were, they were 5 to 10, 15 years older than me. So my network was anyone raising kids, kind of you're around the other people you're raising kids with. So I wasn't meeting any single guys that I was interested in. So I had kind of given out, actually, and I thought we'd move to the farm, and I just didn't want to marry a single farmer. And I thought that we would move to the farm, and I would just rent out my house in Fargo, and I wasn't interested. And my employer let me work remotely, and we would just move to the farm, and I would just raise you there, because I didn't feel that I was going to meet anybody, and I was just going to be a single mom. And again, you and I had made the pact that we could adopt a kid when I was 30. And then I boarded a plane for my work to Kansas City, and I ended up being introduced to your dad now. And that is a story that you want me to tell the whole story?
Yeah. Give me the 5-minute version of that story.
Okay. I was going to Kansas City once a month for my work. I worked for an advertising agency that had an office in Kansas City. And Nathan, my now husband of 19 years, had just gotten a new territory for his pharmaceutical management job. And so he was going to Kansas City to kind of meet with his new team. And he was Bismarck based and was supposed to fly the night before and had mechanical issues in Bismarck. So they basically said back in the day, there was, again, no boarding pass on your phone. Just like, come back to the airport at 5 a.m. tomorrow in Bismarck with your paper boarding pass, and we're going to fly you to Minneapolis and still get you to where you're going. So I flew Fargo to Minneapolis. He flew Bismarck to Minneapolis. And then I walked all across the airport to the end of the F concourse in the Minneapolis airport, which, if you know what that is, it's a long walk. I stopped at the one Burger King that was open for a coffee. And at the time, pre-Delta, it was Northwest Airlines. And they had a policy like you got upgraded, just like they do now, except for they actually announced it, that you were upgraded. And I was like gold, and Nathan was platinum. And so I had already been upgraded to 4B, and because I was gold. And then, but Dad didn't have a seat on the plane yet. So he came to the gate and was like, hi, I was supposed to fly last night and I'm supposed to now fly. And so again, just a different time of reservations and travel. And they're like, oh, we're sorry, Mr. Pinke. I think they had given him this 11E or whatever back. He called it cattle seat because he was such a bougie flyer.
Yeah, that just makes my skin crawl.
Yeah.
Where the cheap seats were where the common folk sit.
But he always got upgraded.
Yeah, the bougie pharmaceutical reps that get to sit in the first class.
Yeah, he worked for a global pharmaceutical company, and he always got upgraded. So what happened is that I think they had given him 11E, and he said, "Hey, I'm platinum. Is there any first class seats?" And they're like, "Oh, we're sorry, Mr. Pinke. Here's 4B." And he just grabbed his boarding pass and boarded. And then they called me up, and they were like, "Oh, we're sorry, Miss Lukens. We had a platinum request first class, and that's guaranteed. So here's your."
So he kicked you out of first class
without knowing it, because he would not intentionally do that.
Oh, of course not. So you go and sit in what was his seat,
11E.
And so you're sitting next to
his sales rep.
Okay.
And his sales rep talked to me most of the flight, but it was just like casual, like small talk, once in a while question. It wasn't like a constant conversation. So he would ask me a question and I would answer it, and small. He's like, "I think you were on my Fargo flight this morning," and I was like, "Oh yeah, I was." "And do you live in Fargo?" "Yeah, I live in Fargo." It was just kind of that. And then I think I was reading the newspaper or a book, and he was actually I was in middle seat, so Josh, the guy sitting to my left, was like talking over me to the woman to my right. And by the end of the flight, he said to me something to the effect of, "So are you single?" And I just was like, this guy, no way, at 7 a.m. on a Monday. I'm not going out with him. And then he proceeded to tell me he had just gotten engaged at a Twins game. And so I thought, okay, he's safe. He's just friendly. And so I said, "Yeah, I'm single." But he goes, "Why?" And I said, "Well, for more reasons than I would tell you."
Yeah.
And
the random guy on the airplane.
A random guy.
Yeah.
And then he had just gotten engaged. So I just felt like, he's like, "Well, maybe I'll see you in Fargo sometime, but you really should meet my boss." I'm like, no, hard no. I'm not going to meet your boss. And I remember saying something sarcastic, which if you know me,
You sarcastic?
I said,
No way.
"Oh, is he from North Dakota?" And he said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, if he's single from North Dakota, I've already probably been set up with him. So not interested." That's what I said. I said, "I'm not interested." And he said, and then I also said some inflammatory, sarcastic remarks, but I just wasn't interested in being set up. I wasn't interested in I was a single mom. I had a career. I bought my house. Like, I just felt like I was good. And I had reached the point where I was going to be satisfied with being single, and I didn't need to have a husband to fill the role that it was an empty hole in our life and that you wanted, but I just felt it wasn't out there.
But you got set up and you said yes to a blind date, right?
Well, Josh actually followed me off the plane and said, "That's my boss right up there in 4B. And I was like, 4B? And I looked, and I said something like, "Oh, I bet he's tall, dark, and handsome." And Josh is like, "Well, I'm not a very good judge, but I think so." And I was like, "What?"
Let's put up a picture of my dad. He is tall, dark, and handsome.
Still, he's still tall, dark, and handsome.
And kicking you out of your seat, let you sit next to his coworker, who then set you up with him.
It was planned. It was God.
Crazy.
And so Nathan saw Josh following me off the plane, and Nathan made eye contact with me in a way of like, "I am so sorry." Like, it was not a like, "I'm interested to meet you." It was like "I am so sorry that this man is following," because he was like, "Hey, give me your card," and I was like, "Hey man, no way." And the Kansas City airport was different at the time, and he literally followed me out to the taxi stand. And finally, I gave him my card, and he said, "Well, we have plans tonight, but we're going to call you tomorrow, and let's meet out tomorrow night." And I was like, "To meet your boss?" And he was like, "Yeah, it's going to be great, And I went into the Kansas City office that day, and I was like, I think I have like a date tomorrow night. And my coworkers, who are still my friends today, and we're at our wedding, were like, "It's probably a date rape setup."
Yeah, that's my first thought too, is like, why would you ever trust the random guy on the airplane?
Fargo. He was a North Dakota guy, Josh.
That's such a North Dakota thing, though. Like, oh, he's from North Dakota. He must be a decent guy.
It's very, very rural, small town, upper Midwest. We trust you. And so my coworkers in Kansas City, they thought it was a date rape setup. They thought I was going to be attacked. And so they went to dinner with me that night, that Tuesday night. First of all, Josh called me the next day at 12:30, just like he said he would, and said where he wanted to meet. And I just was like, I don't know. I'd never done this before. I'd not been on a dating app. There was dating apps then.
What was the dating app back then?
I don't remember, but I wasn't on them.
Yeah.
But I wasn't on them. And so I just thought, no. And then I said where we were going to dinner. And my coworkers, 2 of them went with me. And then one said, so the guys picked a pretty dingy bar, but it was across the street from the restaurant I was eating at. So that's why they chose it. So these guys, who again are still our friends today, were all gathered. It was all male pharmaceutical reps. And my colleague from the advertising agency was also single. So she was like, pharmaceutical guys, if you're not interested, maybe I am. I'm going with you. And so we went. And I just remember, anyone who knows Nathan today, I mean, he's a very genuine, kind-hearted person. He would never bump you out of your seat.
Soft-spoken.
Well, I mean, he's pretty cutthroat too.
At times, but in this situation, he's gentle.
He's a gentleman, yeah. So he would have never intentionally bumped you out of your seat. But he just stuck out his hand, and I just knew, like, I felt safe with him right away.
What were the 3 questions that he asked you?
Oh, this is funny. There might have even been 4. So Nathan had a bad run in his 20s in dating. I don't want to say bad, but a tough run, we'll say. Nathan had a tough run in his 20s also, and was 29 and was like, I'm a bachelor for life and I'm not interested. Also had bought a house living in Bismarck, had dated a lot. And so he had some key questions. And the next week was actually our first date. He came to Fargo and we went downtown out to eat in Fargo. And you used to be gone for a couple weeks in July.
Sure.
And would go visit family. And so that's, again, the timing of it. I wouldn't have done it if it wasn't that time in July that you were gone. So I met him out. He came to our house and I said, listen, I don't know if we talked about this or not, but I'm a single mom and I have I think 6 or 7-year-old. And so if like that's a thing for you and you have a problem, like we're not going to go out.
That's how you opened it.
Yeah. And he brought me flowers and like he was standing there kind of looking at me and he's like, oh, you got anything else you want to talk about?
Yeah. And you said, I don't even like flowers. They die.
I do.
Unbelievable. Can you just for all the guys listening, put yourself in this situation. You're bringing flowers. You're a little nervous. Beautiful woman. You're going to take her on a date. Hi, I have a son. If you're not cool with that, we shouldn't go out. I don't even like flowers. They die.
I love flowers though. And truthfully, if
anybody that hears I don't like flowers from a girl, that is not true. They're lying to you.
But you know what? I was wounded. I had a lot of bad experiences, tough experiences, and I just was afraid, like anybody is, and I was protective.
But you did go out with them.
Yes. And they asked me key questions. So this is for all men. These are important key questions.
Yes. I've taken notes.
Okay. Number 1, he said, do you eat meat?
I still ask that question.
But again, it was because he had had a negative experience dating a vegetarian. And you can about imagine Nana trying to cook for a vegetarian.
She brings out the porcupine meatballs and she says, no, it's probably not going to go well.
It's a tough, I think, home environment for Dad and his vegetarian.
So do you eat meat? That's an important question. Number 2
was, can you bait your own hook?
Can you bait your own hook?
And I had only ever like dug worms out of my grandma's garden. Yeah. Also gotten some minnows out of the lake at the farm and fished at the dam. Like I didn't know fishing like Dad fishes, like Lake Sakakawea, Devil's Lake, fishing the river, all of that. I was exposed to it after we started dating when I got my rain suit to go.
But what did you say?
Yes, I can bait a hook.
Okay. What was the 3rd question?
Can you pee in the woods?
Okay. That is a big question that has broad, you get to see into somebody's thinking with that question. It's not
pee in the woods.
It's not that you're going to go out and pee in the woods all the time. It's like, okay, if you need to, can you go out in the woods? And
I started laughing at that because I had been raised in a farm family.
It's, are you, what's the best way to say this? Are you like city girl? Oh my goodness, no, I would never. Or are you like, yeah, I suppose I could get that done?
Well, I said, well, are you talking about like camping? Because I said, I haven't camped in a while. Like, yeah, I have a tent. My dad, let's be honest, my dad gave me a tent for my 19th birthday to tell me that I would never be homeless.
What?
Thanks.
That's a great, for all the parents that are looking for a graduation gift, get your kid a tent and then they'll never be homeless because you're not living with me.
On my 18th birthday, I told my parents I was having a baby. They gave me luggage because I was leaving.
Yep.
And then my 19th birthday, my dad gave me a tent. And so I did have a tent, but I mean, I had only set it up in the yard at the farm. Like you and I had camped in the yard at the farm. And my siblings and I had, but I wasn't really like a camper, not like dad is a camper.
Right.
And so when he said, can you pee in the woods? My parents had camped with me a lot early on when I was a kid. And so all I thought it was peeing in the woods was I thought like in the field because I had been in the field a lot growing up and at the farm. So I was like, I mean, yeah, I'm from a farm. We pee in the field all the time.
Yeah. And then the fourth question was,
do you like my dog? Which is very funny.
His name was Charlie, and he was a good boy. He's a very good boy.
Yes, but so that led into a whole thing because we were only a yellow lab family.
Yeah.
And Charlie was a yellow lab. And so at that point, Dad like feels like, oh my goodness.
She checks a lot of boxes.
And he went to the bathroom. And that at the time, the Hodo was new. It was brand new. We were at
that is the Hotel Donaldson, for those that don't know.
And in downtown Fargo. And he went to the bathroom and he came back from the bathroom. And he's like, is there anything else you want to tell me? And I was like, no. But I could tell he was like really excited. I had answered all of his questions. I could eat meat.
Yep.
I could bait my own hook. I could pee in the woods. And I also had a yellow lab because we had just gotten a new yellow lab at the farm. But we always had yellow labs and still do to this day.
Yeah. So you guys date a little while and then you get married. I remember my speech at your wedding was it was a precursor for what was to come because I went off track a little bit.
You didn't follow the script.
I didn't follow the script. I went off script, and I said something to the extent of, Nathan, it's not always going to be easy. It's not always going to be easy, but we're going to get through it. Something to that extent.
Yeah,
right?
I think because my mom always would say something to Nathan like, life with Katie is never dull.
Yeah.
You know, and so you knew that. And yeah, life with Katie moves at a fast pace.
Yeah. It's not going to be easy, but it's going to be worth it.
And we just dated for a short amount of time, really because of you. I mean, you were a big factor in that because he lived 200 miles away. Mm-hmm. We were not going to live together before we were married. You were in third grade, starting third grade. And so we just felt that it was best. And so we dated for 7 or 8 months. And got engaged, and then 7 or 8 months after that, we got married. So we met in July and got married the following October. You were very excited.
Oh, yeah. I was very, very excited. We just finished out that year in Fargo, and then we moved to Wishick.
I had the great idea that Dad should quit his corporate job. Dad always would say in Wishick, on the hard days, taking over a family business, he would always say, it was your idea.
Yep. And that is when the Wishick journey begins. Hey guys, thanks for tuning into the Sit Down Part 2 with Katie. Really, really good talk, and I think you're going to enjoy Part 3. It's going to be impactful. So make sure to tune in tomorrow. It's going to be dropping tomorrow. But until then, have a great rest of your day, and thanks for sitting down with me.